Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Longhurst, a specialist buy-to-let mortgage advisor here at Mortgages for Business, and welcome. In the next 30 minutes, I'll be covering the hows, wheres, whens, and whys of the new regulation and how they affect landlords' ability to get finance. Then at the end of the presentation, you get a chance to ask questions. If I'm unable to answer any of your questions, I will endeavour to find an answer and get back to you afterwards. Energy performance certificates are a rating scheme to summarise the energy efficiency of buildings in the United Kingdom. They were introduced to help raise the awareness and efficiency of property, and ultimately to tackle greenhouse gas emissions. If you're a landlord, you will need a valid EPC for every property you rent out, although there are some exemptions, which we'll look at a little later. The new rules are quite explicit. From April this year, landlords of privately rented property in England or Wales must ensure that their properties meet the new minimum energy efficiency standard, that's MEES. In practice, this means that qualifying properties must have at least an EPC rating of E before granting a new tenancy to a new or existing tenant. These requirements will apply to all private rented properties in England and Wales from the 1st of April 2020, even when there has been no change in tenancy arrangements. Local authorities can force you to comply with the rules and impose fines. Like all these things, there are exceptions to every rule, and eligible properties are no different. Some exemptions include some listed buildings, holiday lets, tenant leases of less than 6 months, or a detached property with total floor space of less than 538 square feet. If you think your F or G rated property qualifies for an exemption from the minimum energy efficiency standard, an exemption must be registered on the National PRS Exemptions Register. The register service is currently running as a pilot. Landlords who wish to register an exemption should email the BEIS minimum standards team at the email address that's on the slide, which we'll give you a copy of later. According to the government, increasing the energy efficiency of our domestic rental stock can help a number of things. Manage the energy efficiency cost of tenants, including some of the most vulnerable. Improve the condition of properties and help reduce maintenance costs. Smooth seasonal peaks in energy demand and thereby increase our energy security. Reduce greenhouse gas emissions at relatively low cost. Support growth and jobs within the green construction industry and the wider supply chain for energy efficiency. The regulations are intended to ensure that those tenants who most need more efficient homes, particularly vulnerable people, are able to enjoy a much better living environment and lower energy bills. Although newly built homes in the private rented sector tend to have higher energy efficiency ratings than the average, there remains a stock of older, less modern properties, and many of these have poor energy efficiency and are difficult and costly to heat. These less efficient properties result in higher tenant energy bills and, for many, the likelihood of living in fuel poverty. But the rules are also there to benefit landlords. Clearly, having a good EPC rating will be attractive to potential tenants, and once they are in, hopefully they will stay with you for longer. Research also suggests more energy efficient homes reduce rental voids. Perhaps more importantly, from a financing perspective, meeting the minimum energy efficiency standard will improve landlords' chances of getting a buy-to-let mortgage. Essentially, lenders are going to be looking very closely when underwriting mortgage applications for both purchases and remortgages. They will be checking that properties have a valid EPC, and they may even make a note of the expiry date and further down the line check to make sure you've renewed it. That EPC ratings meet the minimum energy efficiency standard, which is A to E, and some might insist that you provide them with a copy of the EPC for their files. We don't know yet, but we may find that properties are downvalued if they have lower EPC ratings. Where a lender doesn't actively check EPCs, they will be putting the onus on the landlords to make sure they comply. If you think you might need buy-to-let finance in the future, there are a number of actions which you should think about taking now to ensure you comply with the new regulations. The most obvious answer is to upgrade your properties so that they meet the new minimum standard. The government does offer Green Deal finance to help landlords and tenants, and we can point you in the right direction on this in our follow-up documentation. If that doesn't work for you, you could also talk to us about raising finance on property. Obviously, it would have to be on a property that is EPC compliant. If your property currently has either an F or G rating, I suppose you could consider attempting to remortgage before the 1st of April deadline. But this is really kicking the can down the road. And bear in mind that the EPCs are on the lender's radars already, so you could find a decline. Checking the EPC status of your property is easy. We've put an instant EPC rating retriever on our website. And you can also find the same thing on the government website, gov.uk, where you can also download a copy of the EPC and find out how to book an assessor if you need to get a report done. Moving on to HMOs, the existing definition of a HMO, a licensed or non-licensable property. Licensed or non-licensable is a property rented out by at least 3 people who are not from one household, but who share facilities such as kitchen and bathroom. Current mandatory licensing applies only to larger HMOs and to HMOs in mandatory licensing areas. However, from the 1st of October 2018, mandatory licensing is being extended to properties with any number of stories. This means that flats and standard 2-story houses are more likely to require a license if they meet the new definition. I saw on a landlord forum just last night that these changes were approved by Parliament on the 23rd of February, which means that landlords have about 7 months to prepare. I also understand that anyone with an existing non-mandatory licence issued by the local authority will automatically be passported onto the mandatory scheme. Another rule within the new licensing regime introduces minimum room sizes for bedrooms within HMOs. This is to reduce overcrowding, and I've summarised the sizes on the screen. Where a room does not meet these conditions, the local authority will be required to give the landlord a reasonable period of time to remedy the failure, and during this period they will not face any sanctions for a breach of the condition, unless the breach of the condition was deliberate, in which case sanctions will apply. The licences also require that landlords take responsibility for rubbish disposal. That includes providing adequate receptacles for tenants and ensuring that council rules are followed. I suggest you contact your local authority to find out how this will affect your own properties. Before granting a licence, local authorities will be carrying out checks on landlords or their agents to ensure that they are suitable licence holders. If your name is on the Rogue Landlords database, you won't get a licence, and it could affect your ability to get a buy-to-let mortgage. We expect lenders or their representatives to start checking. The new rules within the mandatory licensing system are being introduced to prevent overcrowding and improve living conditions, not only for renters, but also for neighbours. We think that the rules will be effective from the 1st of October 2018, subject to parliamentary approval. We'll be keeping an eye on this. As I mentioned earlier, one of the landlord forums says approval was passed on the 23rd of February, but we do need to check this, so we'll update you accordingly. Like the EPC requirements, lenders' policies already require landlords to comply with the law as standard. However, this new licensing is now on lenders' radars, so we recommend that you prepare now. If you have a HMO multi-let, which currently does not require a license, check to see if it will be caught by the new rules. Contact your local authority for guidance. Clearly, non-compliance will mean you won't be able to get buy-to-let finance. We expect lenders to get their valuers to pay attention to room sizes. We've had no word yet on how lenders intend to handle existing borrowers whose properties will fall within the new mandatory licensing scheme for the first time. So we'll have to keep you posted on that one as well. We've just put up a few options for current buy-to-lets for HMOs. And we're always happy to talk about any of these. Any questions? Vedran, so how will the new rules work in practice for HMOs as councils are fairly stretched as it is, and their enforcement is reactive rather than proactive? Yes, that's going to be interesting to see how they fund the enforcement. We understand that any fines will be civil fines, and those monies will go back to the council. So perhaps they'll use that to fund the enforcement. But I think we can just wait and see on that. What is ERCs? That's early redemption charges. So they vary from product to product. Some are, or they're normally reducing, so perhaps 5% in the first year, 4% in the second, etc. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll pass you back to Amy. And oh, here we go. Have rates changed for HMO finance over the past year? Seem to remember there were rates in the 2s, but these have now increased. And what trend are you seeing? Are the maximum room limits for these also such as 5 beds? Well, rates in general have increased as the Bank of England have suggested. With inflation, we will see 2, possibly 3 increases this year, and that can only have an impact across rates in general. So I think we're anticipating an increase of rates over the rest of the year, and now is not a bad time to be thinking about a longer term fix. Are there maximum room limits for these? There's a variety of lenders have different requirements. Some will go up to more than 5, but they then fall under the more commercial category rather than a standard buy-to-let. But if you'd like to get in touch with us, we're happy to talk about specifics with you. Okay. Well, I'll pass you back to Amy, and she'll give you an idea of how we'll take this forward. Thanks very much for your attention.
Hi everyone. So I hope we managed to answer all of your questions today. If you do come up with any more, please feel free to send them through to me and we will get back to you as soon as possible. My details will be included in the follow-up email. Now, as Chris mentioned, we will be sending out a copy of the presentation slides within the follow-up email, and I'd like to have this over to you all by the end of the week latest. We will also get a recording of the webinar onto YouTube that I should hope to have out to you early next week, if not by Friday. So thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great afternoon.